Hey guys, this is part 10 of what happened to my husband. And today's actually December the 2nd, but I'm going to go back uh, because it's been such a horrible, horrible year trying to piece together what has gone wrong with us, my husband and I. Anyhow, this here, the pictures that I'm showing right now, the pond. I wanted so badly this spring to get the pond fixed, and we took out the rock and we tried to fix it, and the rubber was leaking, and we put down new rubber, and everything was just horrible. We couldn't do anything right. And it just didn't work out and didn't work out. And I was hoping that my husband would stay with the pond and we would try to figure out so that we would have a decent pond this year because it was the same thing last year trying to get it to work. But he tried different things and he had his mind on wanting to um, turn our terraced backyard into a as level as he could make it and more like ramps instead of steps and all sorts of things. So this was in April. This was like April the 18th, I believe, and the tulips is up. And it was just beautiful outside and the shrubs. I have always loved the shrubs and the birds just, they hide in it in wintertime and they really enjoy these shrubs. And they're right at our living room window. And I know they were too tall. And my mother got those for us when we moved in the house and 40 years ago and 42 years ago. And I just loved the shrubs. And I know they were too big and they were a thorn in my husband's side of, they were too big and he said they were going to fall over and this, that, and the other. And so he just, I think he's really wanted to tear them out completely for years, but he knew how much I loved them. So he did initially. I even have a video where he strapped them and tried to save them because he kept saying they were going to fall over. They were just too big and they did need to be cut back. And I realized that. So anyhow, I'm going back to March as to, I don't know if I can't remember how much we fought and argued before the end of March, like March the 28th. But anyhow, March the 28th, the evening of March the 28th, he decided he wanted to have separate bedrooms. He wanted me out of the bedroom. He either wanted me to take the storage room or he would take the storage room. Well, I decided on the storage room. And we had these nice metal shelving up, and we had all of the storage, the sheets and blankets and extra towels and all sorts of things, pillows and Sparky, our box turtle, a bunch of his stuff. And he wanted all of that out. He wanted to have my bed over into the storage room. And I was so tired, and it was evening he decided on it, and it had to be right now. It had to be right now. And then he wanted to have he wanted this big, huge metal cabinet out of the other storage room where we had it full of stuff and canned food and all sorts of things. And it was just so, so handy, and I liked it so much. And I stored, all sorts of things in it. And I had recently situated where I knew where everything was in there, and I just really, really liked that. It was huge, a huge deep metal cabinet. And he insisted he wanted that metal cabinet out of that room. It had to be now, everything had to be now. And I didn't want him to start tearing up the front yard right off the bat. I wanted him to work on, now, like say, this is April the 18th, I believe. And we got a robin snow. And so, what I'm calling it anyway. But he decided he wanted to start with a bobcat, which he did. And then he got this horrendous skid steer that I believe set him off to the point where it caused him to be a completely different person. And there he did go back to the pond a little bit and put this wood up, which I didn't get. I didn't get anything he did. That was the problem. I didn't understand or get anything he did. And this is our beautiful dogwood tree in the front yard before he started on the front yard. And I just loved, and there's a picture of the way it was. I would stand across the street and look at our front yard. Well, he started on it, and he decided he wanted a driveway there. Well, that really was upsetting to me. And we already had one driveway in the front. He wanted a second one, and he wanted to gravel it. And this front yard is so, so tiny. So he chopped away at the neighbor's bush. That's a neighbor's bush, which they didn't really want in the first place. There you can see a picture of it before he cut it, and he just took and he just totally, in my view, wrecked the front yard. And he even had a guy say, well, "You're crazy," when he saw it. There's the shrubs before he did that, and there's how I had beautiful azaleas coming, and he dug all those up and stuck them in the back against the wall, and I didn't realize they weren't even planted, and it was months later that I noticed that they weren't even planted. Anyhow, there is how the front yard ended up looking with no shrubs, and I ended up having these little wildflowers come up and take the place that the little hummingbirds love. And behind that sit the azaleas dying, basically. So LP started digging out for his driveway in the back, and we had a flower bed here in the forefront, so he dug it down and so he could swing the truck in close to the fence. And then he dug it down far enough with a skid steer where he got the flower bulbs out. And then he proceeded to continue on and dig out the spirea bush and all the way to Sparky's pen. So what I'm showing now is just a complete devastation. Our backyard was nothing but it looked like a dump. It was just so bad that I just kept the drapes or the blinds closed in the sunroom, so I just didn't see it. It was just a horrible mess. So LP, he got to the point where he wasn't sleeping maybe an hour or two at night, and he would take pictures or he would take videos. And he got to the point where he would only have ice cream and coffee. And he he wasn't himself, although he thinks he was perfectly normal, and it was me that was something wrong with me, and that I'm right-brained and he's left-brained, and that's what our problem was, although it never was a problem before this year. We battled and battled over was the amount of water to give a plant. And he wanted to wait until the plant looked stressed and its leaves started to wilt. And then if they wilt too bad, then he just picks the leaves off that are wilted. And we battled and we fought and we battled about that. It just was heartbreaking for me to watch the plants deteriorate. But in his eyes, they're just wonderful. They just are just terrific. He claimed if I watered that we could have a $2,000 water bill in a month. Another thing we disagreed on is having tomato plants in buckets. They didn't do well last year, and they didn't do well this year. And I wanted them planted in the ground, even though we don't have much space. But I understand his point that he can bring them into the greenhouse. During this time, I have no idea how much he was walking and pacing and walking and high-strung. And we both became extremely high-strung, and he would scream and scream at me, stand outside and tell me how stupid I was, to the point where the neighbor lady was worried about me because it sounded like it was a very volatile situation. At the same time that LP was restricting me watering the plants because it was going to be too expensive, he was out on his spending spree. And our credit card for 1 month period was $27,000. During this time, I would sneak over to the greenhouse and water the banana plants, and I would sneak watering to try to keep the plants alive because I felt that he was just going to let everything die.